All right, we should be live. Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. It is Friday, February 27th today. It looks like a beautiful day outside. We got hammered again on the East Coast with more snow. Can't really complain though. It's always beautiful when you get a nice dusting of snow. Mother Nature did the funniest thing ever by giving us a little extra 2 inches the day after that blizzard as well. But I'm not going to complain. I personally love the snow. Now, let's get down to business. We got a packed show this morning. We have so much to go over. We have Champions League results from Tuesday and Wednesday. We have the Premier League preview for this upcoming weekend. We have the Dubai Open and the Acapulco Open for tennis. There will be a little segment on the WTA, but not too much just because I haven't watched the most of it this week. All right, let's get right down to business, though. In the Champions League, we had some absolutely incredible games this week. It was true Champions League football. Champions League nights are back, and boy, is it great to see. Starting things off, we had Atletico Madrid facing Club Brugge. Now, this game had a lot on the line. Obviously, a place into next round of the Champions League, but it was 3-3 after that initial first leg in Belgium. Atletico Madrid were the likely favorites to go through, and you expect them at the Wanda Metropolitano to really wrap this game up with ease. And it started off very well for Atletico. I mean, they wasted no time. Sorloth scored in the 23rd minute, and that was just the first of many today. He was absolutely cracking for Atletico Madrid on Tuesday. Bruges answered back with a goal of their own in the 36th minute, and you think to yourself, all right, here we go again. The first leg was 3-3. What is this leg going to provide? What craziness are we about to witness at 12:45 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon? But Sorloth was just way too much to handle for Club Brugge's defense as he goes on and scores a hat trick. He was absolutely electric that day. Cardoso also bagged a goal himself in the 48th minute. That was the goal to put Atletico up 2-1, and then Bruges started to get a little exposed. And then after that, it was the Sorloth show. And Atletico Madrid are on to the next stage of the Champions League. The Champions League draw also just happened as well. About an hour or so ago, Fabrizio Romano put that out. So after the Champions League games are wrapped up in terms of review, I'm going to go over the bracket. But back to the actual games themselves. Then we had Leverkusen versus Olympiacos. And this game was only ever going to go one way. The boring route. Because Leverkusen took that 2-0 lead, the vital 2 away goals, even though away goals don't count anymore, in Greece at Olympiacos Stadium, and they could really just coast in this match, and that's what happened. This game was boring. They didn't even give Olympiacos a sniff at net. Olympiacos just, they met their match with this one, really. Leverkusen are a good side, and they find themselves through to the next round of the Champions League. A 0-0 tie. There's really not much to report on it. Nothing exciting happened in that game. However, there was plenty exciting going on in the Bodo Glimt versus Inter game. And let me first start out by saying I am a massive fan of Bodo Glimt now. As someone with no dog in the fight in the Champions League, I am riding Bodo Glimt this entire way. I hope they beat everyone. I hope that they make it to the semifinal and then final. A run that we haven't seen out of a club since 2019 Ajax. If you remember that team, you remember how special that run was. That team was coached by Erik ten Hag, which is funny because, things didn't work out too well with him outside of the Netherlands. But that team was incredible, and that's what this Bodo Glimt team reminds me of. Now, after that first leg in Norway, Bodo were up 3-1 on aggregate. So Inter had a lot to play for. I had thought that Inter were going to come out and, put a lot of pressure on Bodo, and they did. They put in about 30 crosses or so throughout the game. They didn't really play through the middle much, which is interesting, but they were just whipping ball in left and right. And Bodo's defense met their tasks, met their match. We're up to the task. Little jumbling of words there. But they were absolutely staunch on defense. And then they go and get a goal of their own, I think in the 54th minute. Let me double check that real quick. Bodo Glimt. 58th minute via Haug. Butchered that pronunciation for sure. But that's all right. And from there it was pretty much smooth sailing. You have a 4-1 lead on aggregate. You are playing very good defense. You're sitting back a lot, but when you do get control of the ball, you're making good progression forward. In that second half, Bodo Glimt had 1.6 expected goals to Inter's 1.64 expected goals. So it was a great second half by both teams. But after that first goal went in, you could see Inter really going for it. And that was when the third goal went in, or the second goal went in. And that second goal from Bodo Glimt was magical. Absolutely stunning stuff from them. The cross into Evgen. These names are tough. The Norwegian names are just tough. The ball was fed into Evgen, and he takes it lovely. He has that first touch with his left foot, and then just smashes it into the bottom corner with his right foot, and it was truly spectacular to see them go up 5-1 on aggregate. And then the tie was over from there. I mean, Inter then go ahead and get themselves a goal just a few minutes later via Bastoni, but you were never coming back from a 5-1 lead on aggregate. It was just way too much in way too short of time. Inter left it a bit too late, but hats off to Bodo Glimt. So happy for them. I've been seeing so much about how well drilled they are as a side, and it makes sense. Apparently, they have brought in an ex-military personnel from the Norwegian military. I read this online, and he's instilled this belief in the team that they can go and beat anyone. And, I mean, he's right. They can beat anyone. They were on the verge of not making the knockouts and then proceed to beat Atletico Madrid, beat Manchester City, and now beat Inter Milan, the Champions League runners-up from last year, over 2 legs. They beat him at home and they beat him in Milan. Absolutely stunning stuff from Bodo Glimt. A team that's not even in season right now because it's too cold in Norway. Their season starts up in March, I believe. But those fans will be loving it, and I'm sure that those players won't mind not having a holiday with Champions League play on the line. Then we had Newcastle versus Karabag, and let me first start by saying this second tie was meaningless. I mean, Newcastle were up 6-1, and unfortunately for Karabag, you're just not coming back from that. It's an insurmountable amount of goals for a lower tier side, because let's be honest, that's what they are. Shout out to the fans. Shout out to the Karabag FK fans for traveling. I got to see how many miles this is. Let's see. Agdam City Stadium in Azerbaijan. Let's do a quick look at this. Let's do directions, and then let's swap these around, and let's put in Newcastle. Newcastle up the tune. This was a 3,000 plus mile journey for those fans. Down 6-1 on aggregate in the Champions League. There was a picture of them floating around on Twitter. So shout out to those few hundred fans that made the trip. I mean, when you're in the Champions League, especially the knockouts, as a smaller side from Azerbaijan, you got to make the most of it. So fair play to those fans. But Newcastle ended up winning this game as well. I didn't even see the side they put out because I wasn't paying attention the most to the game, as Bodo Glimt and Inter was absolutely popping off. But nonetheless, Newcastle are through to the next round, and good for them. We'll get into their draw a little bit later. Now, Wednesday. Wednesday starts off hot with Juventus versus Galatasaray. Galatasaray are going into Turin with a 5-2 lead on aggregate, and they really just need to see it out. Nothing too crazy. But as Champions League will do, craziness occurred. Juventus needed to go all out for this, and that's exactly what they did. They scored in the 47th minute, the 70th minute, and then the 82nd minute to force extra time. The fans must have been going absolutely bonkers all throughout northern Italy in Turin. But football can bring you from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. Absolute desperation from Juventus. They gave it all in that first 90 minutes, and then it was just a bit too much for them. Osimhen ended up scoring on the brink of halftime and extra time. I believe it was the 105th minute +2. And from there on out, you could just see how deflated Juventus was. They were beaten up. They were over it. And then Yilmaz seals it with a goal in the 119th minute to send the Italian giants packing. What a result for Galatasaray. I mean, when Osimhen went there from Napoli, everyone was saying, oh, he's just doing this to, well, keep his high salary, because he did want a high salary. But Galatasaray are not a team to be messed with. They are so good at home. I mean, they put up 5 goals against this Juventus side, which is pretty decent. And Galatasaray look very threatening going forward. PSG versus Monaco next. PSG come into this game with a 3-2 lead on aggregate. And again, this game starts off hot. Monaco score right at the edge of halftime in the 45th minute. And if you're a PSG supporter or a player or the PSG owner, you're going into halftime terrified, because you're the major giant of Ligue 1. You play Monaco so frequently, twice a year at the minimum. You're now seeing them in the Champions League, such crazy competition where anything can happen. And next thing you know, you're level 3-3, and you go into halftime with no momentum. But Monaco, they go and just absolutely shoot themselves in the foot with an arrow. Koulibaly gets a red card in the 58th minute, and the game is absolutely flipped on its head. Just an unfortunate series of events for Monaco. Bad challenge from Koulibaly. There's no reason for him to do that. And then from there on, it was PSG. Marquinhos and Kvaratskhelia then both score within the next 10 minutes. Marquinhos in the 60th minute and Kvaratskhelia in the 66th minute. And that was it. That was the backbreaker for Monaco. You're down to 10 men. You're down at the Parc des Principes, and you just stand no chance. Now, Teze for Monaco does get a consolation goal in the 90th minute, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough from Monaco. Once that red card occurred, it was wraps. Tough for them because they really had PSG on their heels at the end of that first half. Now, we have Real Madrid facing off Benfica in Madrid at the Bernabeu. And again, we have another early goal from the challenger. Benfica down on aggregate. Score the first goal in the 14th minute via Silva. Benfica fans are filled with hope and they think maybe tonight is the night. Well, then Tchouameni goes and scores a banger in the 16th minute. Just 2 minutes later, next 5. Come on. These coaches, we see it all the time. How rapidly in succession are goals scored within each other. And you know, you get excited, you finally get that goal that gets you back into the tie. Just settle down, soak up pressure for the next few minutes or so, and then get back to it. Well, Real Madrid just do their thing. They are the Champions League. And then they just stall out the game. You know, they played rather defensive. Vinny then scored in the 80th minute to really seal the game off. Shout out Courtois as well. He had some great saves. And Real Madrid are through into the next round. This final match that we had on Wednesday was show-stopping. It was cinema. It was a true Champions League night and what the Champions League is all about. Atalanta versus Borussia Dortmund in Italy. Atalanta at home looking to pull off not a miracle, but a very tall task. They're down 2-0 on aggregate to Dortmund. I personally thought that Dortmund were just going to go ahead and see this one out. Atalanta had something to say about that. They score in the 5th minute via Scamacca, and you could just tell once that goal went in, this side was juiced. When you get that early goal down on aggregate, you feel the energy from your home crowd, and you get that belief. And a 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in soccer. And proved right. Zappacosta in the 45th minute on the stroke of halftime again. Oh, Atalanta score 2 goals within the first 5 minutes and last 5 minutes of halftime. Borussia Dortmund's coach will not be happy with that. 2-2 going into halftime. The tie is level. Now, if you're Borussia Dortmund, you just have to snap out of it. You have to go and get that 3rd goal before Atalanta, but that's not the case. Pasalic scores in the 57th minute, and the New Balance Arena absolutely erupted. Atalanta crawl back 2-0 down in the tie to make it 3-2 on aggregate. You now back Atalanta to go and win it, right? No. Just a few more twists in the tail. Borussia Dortmund score via Adeyemi in the 75th minute. It was such a tidy finish. Great finish. And it's 3-3 on aggregate. Now, if away goals were still around, then Borussia Dortmund could have just seen this game out. But with the change in the structure and doing away with away goals and sending it to penalties if it's tied on aggregate now, this game looked destined for extra time. That was until Ben Sebaini for Dortmund commits heinous acts. Gets sent off, gets a red card, then Atalanta get a penalty. Picturesque, the 90th minute plus 7 minutes of added time. A red card, and then a penalty for Atalanta. Unbelievable stuff. Samajic then slots it into the back of the net, and the Italian side, Atalanta, see themselves through into the next round of the Champions League. And this is why we love the Champions League. These incredible comebacks, these incredible games, it's all just pure passion for the game. The raw emotion that these fans feel is unmatched and unparalleled across any other sport. It's really beautiful to see. I thoroughly love it. That wraps up the Champions League games. Now, I've got the draw up on my phone. This was done just an hour or so ago. And let me tell you, this is tasty. Round of 16 matchups. We have PSG versus Chelsea. What a match that's going to be on both sides. Two major European giants. Absolutely incredible. Then Galatasaray faces off against Liverpool. And let me tell you, this is gettable for Galatasaray. Liverpool have not been in the best of form this year. And Galatasaray can do bits. The winner of that will play the winner of Chelsea PSG, and then the winner of those four will go on to the semifinals within that little cluster. The next cluster of four we have Real Madrid versus Manchester City. It happened again. You just knew it was going to be. I believe it was Courtois in his post-match press conference after the Benfica game, where he just openly said, "We're going to get City, aren't we, in the draw?" And, well, yep, he knew it. He was right. We have City versus Real yet again in the Champions League. It's fireworks every single time, and I can't wait for it. The other two teams in that group of the bracket, Atalanta versus FC Bayern Munich. Italian clubs do not have the greatest history of going to the Allianz Arena. Bayern look such a good side this year. Really well drilled in Kompany's second year? I believe this is Kompany's second year. But yeah, should be a great tie, that one. And then the winner of Real Madrid City will then obviously take on the winner of Atalanta Bayern Munich. And could you imagine if we get Real Madrid Bayern Munich? All those storied matches in the past. Absolutely incredible stuff. Now onto the other side of the bracket, we have Newcastle United versus Barcelona. I mean, what a Champions League night that is. We're going to have Barcelona fans traveling to the Tune and rocking up to St. James Park, sitting in the highest part of this stadium, just welcoming themselves to North England football. It should really be exciting stuff. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. Then the other two teams in that are Atletico Madrid versus Tottenham Hotspur. I love this matchup for a number of reasons. You have Tottenham, who are kind of gritty right now, I would say. I mean, they're in the relegation zone. They're definitely a scrappy team. But the Champions League is all that they have left. You've got Christian Romero, who's an absolute firecracker at center back, versus Diego Simeone, where his whole team is just filled with firecrackers. That one is going to be a very interesting tie. And then, obviously, the winner of that goes on to face either Newcastle or Barcelona for a trip to the semifinals. Now, the last quadrant of four in this Champions League draw, we have Bodo Glimt facing off against Sporting Lisbon. A very favorable draw for them. And I know Sporting Lisbon are not going to be wanting to travel up to northern Norway to take on Bodo Glimt. That's going to be cold. It's going to be tough. That is why Bodo are so good at home. The other two teams, In that group of four are Bayer Leverkusen versus Arsenal. Now, I really do think that Arsenal should take care of business against Leverkusen, but you never know. Obviously, the winner of that goes on to play either Bodo Glimt or Sporting, but listen, out of every group that Bodo Glimt could have been in, this is their best path. This is their path to the semifinal. If they beat Sporting, then they'll have to beat either Arsenal or Leverkusen. And I can see it. I can see it now. It's definitely possible. And I'll be rooting hard for that Norwegian side. Now that wraps up everything that we had Champions League. Let's move in to the Premier League. Let's shift gears to the Premier League preview for this weekend because we have an absolute cracking weekend of Premier League football. Kicking off today at 3 p.m., we have Villa versus Wolves. Now, how many teams have played Wolves that are competing for top 6 in the past couple of weeks or so? I'm actually going to look this up because I feel like it's everyone. Arsenal played Wolves, ended up drawing Wolves. Let's see. Versus Villa, just so I can see their fixtures. Arsenal end up drawing Wolves. We have... All right, I'm just going to go right to FootMob. Shout out FootMob, by the way. Absolutely incredible website. Let's pull this up. Fixtures. Yeah, so they got their draw versus Arsenal. They lost to Chelsea. They also lost to City. They drew Newcastle. They drew Manchester United. So, you know, they're not shy to a decent result against a Big Six side. This is a must-win for Villa, though. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Villa are currently sat third in the Premier League, but it's Chelsea, Manchester United, and Liverpool nipping at their heels. They're only 3 points above United and 6 points above the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool. Things are going to start to slip for them if they let this result go astray. Give me 3-1 Villa, with all that being said. I think because of how badly they need this win, they are going to provide. Now, then kicking off Saturday early morning, we have Bournemouth hosting Sunderland. Just 2 points separate these two teams in the Premier League. It's a very tight league this year. You know, that's just the way you like it, too. A nice tight league. Bournemouth are knocking on the European door right now. They have a chance. I believe they're sat in 8th, just a few points off of Brentford. 2 points off Brentford, looking to try to get into Europe. I mean, just real quick, the Conference League is such an awesome opportunity for these other Premier League sides to be playing in Europe for the first time. It's just how it is. Unfortunately, they really wouldn't have been playing in Europe in previous fashion unless they went on a Leicester City type run, but that was just such an anomaly. And now this Conference League gives the ability for these lesser Premier League sides to get into Europe, and I think it's just absolutely wonderful. Now, the Black Cats of Sunderland really need this one. Their form has not been good. They've just been seeing themselves trickle down the table. They've only won 1 game in their last 5. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Bournemouth are in absolutely fantastic form. They have the second longest unbeaten run in the Premier League right now, only to Manchester United. Now, that unbeaten run's got to end at some point, and I think it's going to be this Saturday, tomorrow. I think Sunderland plays spoiler at Vitality Stadium. Give me the Black Cats to win 2-1. Next, we have Brentford traveling to Turf Moor. Such a storied ground to face Burnley, who are desperate for points. And you never want to play sides that are desperate for points. It's a scary thing. The later that we get into this season, the more that this race gets tight for relegation, the scarier it gets for these sides traveling, especially to a West Ham, to a Burnley, to a Tottenham. But Brentford need this win to stay in contention for the Conference League. If they win it, they stay in 7th. And I honestly think Brentford absolutely mop Burnley here. Burnley's defense is just leaking in goals left and right. Give me the Bees to win 3-0 with a brace from Igor Thiago. Wonderful footballer. Wonderful footballer. Then we have Liverpool welcoming in the Hammers to Merseyside. And again, it's a relegation team that's just trying to scrape points in any way that they can. Liverpool are continuing their push for the Champions League, though, as they are in 6th, tied with Chelsea for 5th. And I would not want to be playing West Ham right now. I mean, luckily Liverpool are home, because I think playing at that stadium in London, it's brutal. They sit back. The field just looks so small. I can't get over it. The field looks tiny in that stadium because the surrounding area outside of it is so big, and it just makes it feel squished. It makes you feel suffocated watching it on TV. But Liverpool get to play at home. And I don't think West Ham's away record is that good. It can't be. I mean, they only have, 26 points in the league? Something like that. Let me see for sure. 25 points. I'm going to take Liverpool in a very unconvincing 2-1 win. I think that they're just trying to win in any fashion that they can right now to make sure they're in the Champions League next year. So I think Liverpool are going to take it. This is just, they have better players than West Ham. Now, Everton traveling up north to take on Newcastle. Newcastle obviously just coming off that fantastic Champions League win. What was it? 9-3 on aggregate overall. They're into the next round, obviously, just covered that. So they'll be flying high. And they'll be well rested as well because they were not playing their best lineup against Karabag, which is unfortunate for Everton. Everton are solid away, though. I think they have the 5th best away form in the Premier League, meaning if you just take away points, they're 5th in the league, which is absolutely remarkable for them. That was so surprising when I read that stat. It makes sense that their home form isn't great. You know, with the new stadium, it's kind of hard to build that character right away, especially after leaving Goodison Park, a storied ground, a ground that has so many amazing moments filled in it with, Wayne Rooney, with Merseyside derbies, so many other incredible players as well. When they had Lukaku, he was absolutely electric there. They even had Carlo Ancelotti in the dugout for a period of time. Who remembers that in 2020? That didn't even feel real. That didn't even feel like a real part of the timeline. I felt like we went into a different reality there. But it happened. And with everything given, I'm going to take the Toffees to win 2-1. I think that Everton's away form continues, and I just think that Newcastle cannot find that form right now in the Premier League that they so desperately desire. Eddie Howe is in a tough spot, but they're doing well in the Champions League, so I guess you can't be too greedy. Now, Manchester City pay a visit to Ellen Road. Such a great ground. Honestly, one of the best sets of fans in the entire Premier League, in my opinion. They are just nonstop. They're relentless giving you crap on the field. You got to respect it from a team like Leeds. You just have to respect it. But we've now reached late February, going on early March, and this is the point in the season when Manchester City just don't drop points, unfortunately. And I think that's the case again tomorrow. It's so brutal because whoever's in the title race with them, you think to yourself, all right, City's on their heels. This is the year that they kind of slack off a bit. Last year it was. But Liverpool and Arsenal have seen it before, both of them. City just find this different gear under Pep where they don't lose. And it's insane. And I think this is the start of it. They can smell blood with Arsenal only being a few points ahead. If City win their game in hand, they're only 2 points off the title. And I don't think that this is a game that they're going to lose. Give me City to win 3-1 at Ellen Road. Now we move on to Sunday. And Sunday, Brighton welcome Nottingham Forest. And this is such a weird game to me. I don't know why. I feel like both these clubs are going through some strange times. Usually you'll see both of these teams in the top half of the table, and that is not the case this year. You have Nottingham Forest in 17th, just 2 points above the drop, and you have Brighton in 14th on 34 points, which is so uncharacteristic of them. But it's just been a tough season for both teams. Nottingham Forest have been a coaching carousel, and Fabian Hertzler just hasn't seemed to find the right method for this Brighton team. I do think that Brighton have the better squad, but it's Forest who have the better standout players. In games like this, I think it's the standout players that decide it. You have your Elliot Anderson and your Morgan Gibbs-White, and I think that they show up this weekend to give Forest all 3 points. Give me Forest to win 2-1 at the Amex. Now, Fulham host Tottenham, and Tottenham need this one bad. The game is at Craven Cottage. I've said it many times before. It is the most beautiful ground in the Premier League. I absolutely adore Craven Cottage. It's so beautiful. It's homey somehow. It's a great pitch. It's right on the river as well. If you don't know what Craven Cottage looks like aerially, from an aerial view, it's wonderful. Definitely go take a look. But both teams really need this win. I think Tottenham definitely need it more, as they are in 16th place right now in the Premier League, just 4 points above the relegation zone, which is just astonishing. Every time I look at it, it makes me laugh, but also it just makes me depressed for Tottenham fans. I mean, you went through this last year with Ange, you win the Europa League, you think you're leaving it all in the past. You get Thomas Frank, this new manager that was supposed to be doing bits for you, supposed to be one of the next exciting managers. So many United fans wanted him, and I'm so glad that all those United fans got proved wrong, because he was just not playing a good style of football, to be honest. Too many crosses, not playing through the middle, and he got sacked for good reason. But with that being said, both teams wanting it, Tottenham needing it, I predict a draw in this game. A draw where Tottenham's leading late, but then Fulham go and snatch a point at the very end to make it 2-2. Now we have Manchester United hosting Crystal Palace. to stay unbeaten in 2026. The longest unbeaten streak right now in the Premier League. And Michael Carrick has to get this one right. We have to stay ahead. If Villa somehow drop points against Wolves, then United need to be right there to snatch up that ground, to make up that ground. And could you imagine if United ended up finishing third this year? But they definitely need to stay ahead of Chelsea and Liverpool. Really broaden that gap. And it's possible that, Liverpool maybe don't get a result this weekend. And we'll get to who Chelsea are playing. Spoiler, it's Arsenal in the London derby. But Michael Carrick needs to get this right. He needs to start Benjamin Sesko. The lad has been on fire recently. And I know he's coming off the bench and scoring, and it's always great to get someone to be able to get you those goals off the bench. But start the lad, please. This is the most obvious. Palace are going to sit back a little bit and defend, especially with the poor form that they're in. That's not typically the way Glasner plays, but you just see it happening at Manchester United, at Old Trafford. And if that is the case, I need to see crosses going into the box. And when we have Mbeumo or Cunha up top, they're just too small. They also don't pin the center backs back. Sesko, on the other hand, is 6'5" and can leap higher than anyone on the planet. The dude has absolute bunnies for feet, springs on his shoes. Air Sesko, cross the ball into him, get it on his head, and United will win this game. Now, unfortunately, with Sesko starting, that means someone has to get dropped, and I think it's got to be Ahmad, just because I think Cunha and Mbeumo are in better form right now. But that just means we get to bring Ahmad on off the bench later in the game. And if for some reason we're down, then you could take off maybe a Casemiro, drop Bruno back into the midfield, move Cunha to the 10, and then you've got the likes of Bruno, Cunha, Mbeumo, Ahmad, and Sesko all up top, and that just smells like goals. But hopefully it doesn't get there. I think Palace are very gettable right now. And for that reason, I'm going to say 2-0 to Manchester United this Sunday. Now, the final match of the weekend, Super Sunday, London derby at the Emirates. Both teams crucially needing this win. Chelsea for Champions League football, Arsenal for the title race. This is going to be a cracker. I personally will be live this Sunday for the match. I'm so excited. It's going to be my first watch along for a Premier League game, and what game better to do it for than Arsenal versus Chelsea? I've got some friends who are Arsenal fans. I've got some friends who are Chelsea fans, and I plan on chirping both of them throughout the whole game. Any chance missed, I'm just going right to the text and letting them hear it. Now, Chelsea are not shy to goals, to scoring them and giving them up. And Arsenal have been looking very good from open play over these past few weeks or so. That should mean goals. That should mean an exciting match. But there's also the real possibility that this is an absolute stinker at 1-1. And that's because Arteta plays, frankly, a disgusting brand of football at the moment, just trying to get corners and just launching corners into the net. Really quick, we need to discuss what is happening in the Premier League right now with corner kicks. Arsenal have ruined it for everyone. They have ruined corner kicks because now what everyone does is just hounds the keeper. If you watch that Manchester United versus Everton game, it looks like a bloody WWE match in there. We've got people being thrown down on every single corner kick. And clearly, Arsenal don't like it when they have to defend. We saw Gabriel and David Raya complaining about it the other game against, who was it, Wolves? How is the taste of your own medicine, Arsenal? This is what you created. This is the league that you have now created. Long throws and corner kicks where everyone just stuffs the goalkeeper, and then goals come from it. Now, the hopeful fan in me wants this game to be exciting. So in that case, because it's boring to predict a 1-1 draw, I'm going to say give me the Gunners to win a thriller 3-2, Declan Rice bagging the winner in front of a souped-up Emirates crowd. North, or just London in general, is red this weekend. Now, switching gears over to tennis, we have had quite an interesting week on the ATP Tour, to be quite frank with everyone. Let's start with the Dubai Open. The Dubai Open is actually live right now. Let me pull up that score real quick. We have FAA versus Daniil Medvedev. Wow, Medvedev is actually up in the first set 4-3, but FAA is on serve. I don't think that either of them have been broken yet. And after this, we have Andrei Rublev versus Griekspoor. And that's the match that I'm really looking forward to. I personally love Rublev. I love watching him play. I love the fiery, angry Russian aspect of a player. And I just think it's so fun to watch. And he does get heated. He gets very heated. And yesterday, we didn't see it much. He was able to keep it pretty under wraps, but when he does, he blasts off. Yesterday, though, he was absolutely incredible in that quarterfinal. His forehand, when it's on, it's one of the best on tour. Like, he is able to spot the ball so cleanly. It's really beautiful to watch, honestly. And when his forehand isn't on, then you get an angry Russian, and that's also exciting. So Rublev is just fireworks every time he plays, and I can't wait to watch. Griekspoor has been in incredible form recently. I mean, he is playing absolutely amazing tennis at the moment. This match should be a cracker, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't rooting for Rublev. And also in this match live right now, Medvedev. I mean, imagine that final matchup. Medvedev versus Rublev in Dubai. The chair umpire would be in for a hell of a match. You've got Medvedev probably yelling at you, these fucking balls, man. These fucking balls are shit. And then you've got Rublev just smashing his racket over his knee. I need it. I absolutely need that final to happen because it would just be so funny. That's all I have from the Dubai Open. We're going to keep track of this live for the rest of the show. We then have the Acapulco Open in Mexico, and this tournament has been absolute mayhem from the start, from the off. The Demon out in the very first round. I don't know if he was just tired or something, but he was absolutely off of it. Casper Ruud also out in the first round. And if you follow my Twitter, then you know that I'm an absolute hater of Casper Ruud, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I tweeted the other day, Casper Ruud is just not a good tennis player. And it gets proven right by the week. Zverev out in the round of 16, the number 1 seed overall. I believe those were the top 3 seeds of the tournament, all out before the quarterfinals. Now, these semifinals are made up of Kecmanovic and Caboli. It's so great to see Flavio playing good tennis again. I'm a big fan of his. I think that Well, one, I just love his orange racket. I believe it's the Radical. I think it's an awesome racket for his on-cloud fits that he's given. And I just love watching him play. He's got that Italian mantra. When he gives up a point, you can see him throw his hands up and go. And it's just so funny. You got to love it. And then Francis Tiafoe versus Nakashima. Nakashima with an incredible match late last night. He gets the victory, and he goes on to face Big Foe in the semifinals. It's also great to see Tiafoe playing well. I think he's an awesome guy. I love watching him play. It seems like he's just a really cool guy as well. A lot of the players on tour like him, so really excited for him. This is going to be thrilling. I pray for a Kaboli versus Tiafoe final, but with the way that this tournament has been going, I highly doubt that is going to happen. Now, quick on the WTA action. As I said, I have not really watched much of the WTA this week just because not many big-name players are playing. You've got Jasmine Paolini into the quarterfinals of the Merida Open. And as for the Austin Open, Taylor Townsend is into the quarterfinals as well. Famously went on that run last year at the U.S. Open, I think making it to the fourth round in that after that highly controversial match versus Ostapenko, I think it was. And that's really all I have to say about the WTA. I'm looking forward to Indian Wells coming up. Both men's and women's side, it's going to be electric. One of the best tournaments of the year in Southern California. I'm going to preview that a bit more on Monday. Thank you all for watching. This was a absolutely stacked show. We had Champions League review. We had the Premier League preview for this upcoming weekend. Talked a little about the Dubai Open, the Acapulco Open, and then just loosely covered the WTA. Again, I will be live this Sunday for the Arsenal-Chelsea game. That starts at 11:30 a.m. I also have another video out soon on Liverpool and why they aren't living up to standards this season. So definitely check that out when that goes live. And yeah, I thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below of who you think is going to win the London Derby and what you think of this Champions League draw. Who do you like going into the semifinals and maybe going on to win it all? That's all I have. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you guys Monday.